I think we've all popped a squat on the pooper at some point and been like, what is Jared Allen up to now?
With 7.5 football. In North Carolina with the Bears call. Here comes Jared Allen. Down goes McCown.
Or is Sam Bradford okay? Oh God, he's not a vegetable now, is he?
Picking up and will go out of bounds. And an iffy play and an injured player. Bradford is down.
Some players just have huge personalities and we grow very accustomed to seeing them on our TVs for 10 plus years. And the moment they retire, we just never see them ever again. It's like they become ghosts, which is unnatural because it's like you can't just have a cowboy hat and just yell at me for a decade and then just nothing. So that's what this video is for. What are these NFL stars doing now? And I only made sure to include the ones that are doing awesome stuff. Jared Allen, the Minnesota mullet, the Twin City tumbleweed.
Who is this Jared Allen?
Great jump by Allen. Here it comes. He's got it. Sack number 22.
He just finished adding a gold jacket to his giddy up get up, so it seemed very fitting to put him first. He was a defensive end. He was drafted in the 4th round by the Kansas City Chiefs, and he played for 12 years for the Chiefs, the Minnesota Vikings primarily, and the Carolina Panthers. His play style really matched his personality. It was very aggressive and just dominant. He was very terrifying to go up against. Known for a lot of huge hits. He produced 136 sacks, which is 12th all time. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler, 4-time All-Pro, led the league in sacks twice, and he retired in 2016 in probably the most Jared Allen way humanly possible, by riding off into the sunset on a horse. But the sun never set on his eccentricity, because immediately after retirement, he took up curling, and not as a joke either. He's very serious about it. He's been doing it professionally for the past 8 years. He started his own curling team, which is only consisting of former NFL players, and he competed in the U.S. National Championships last year, and his primary goal is to play professionally in the Winter Olympics. Vernon Davis.
Smith on 3rd and 3. He throws to the end zone, and a catch is made by Vernon Davis for a Niners touchdown.
Back in 2006, Vernon Davis was taken number 6 overall by the San Francisco 49ers, and honestly, that is unheard of for a tight end to be drafted that high. It's the 3rd highest ever in the history of the NFL, number 1 being Kyle Pitts, who was taken number 4. Vernon was taken this high primarily because he was an athletic freak. He was 6'3", 250 pounds, and he ran a 4.3. A 4.3. That's what Tyreek Hill runs. The little guy that they call the cheetah. This guy was built like RoboCop, and he was running the same speed that Tyreek Hill was. In his 14-year career, he racked up 7,000 receiving yards, 60 touchdowns, made a couple of Pro Bowls, won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, and tied for the league lead in touchdowns in 2009 with 13. He retired after the 2019 season, but he's not even close to shying away from the camera because he's now an actor, and he's actually a very good one. He played a lead role as a serial killer alongside Morgan Freeman in The Ritual Killer, and he was really damn good in it.
Kilapa, Kokuzi Toba, Musa, Ukuziza, Eliboiza.
And he also played a lead role in Red Winter. He has aspirations of starring in a superhero movie as a character that he's made himself. I don't know how possible that is. I've never heard of anyone being able to do that since Stan Lee. So, but then again, I don't know much about superhero movies, so what am I talking about? Also, real quick, before we move on to the next one, hit the subscribe button. It's free. Come on, we'll get to talk football together. And come on, everybody's doing it. Just do it. Roger Staubach. He was drafted in the 10th round by the Dallas Cowboys, which is my favorite team. Yes, I know we suck. I know Jerry's head is rotting from the inside out. Please do not remind me. I am still grieving. And while he was drafted in 1964, he didn't play for the first 4 years because he served in the U.S. Navy. And when he returned home, he played for 11 years for the Dallas Cowboys and became a legend. He won 2 Super Bowls and got a Super Bowl MVP, made 6 Pro Bowls, and then became a Hall of Famer. He was very clutch. He made 17 game-winning fourth quarter drives. He was extremely smart with the ball. He led the league in passer rating 4 times. And fun fact, he is the reason why the term Hail Mary exists. He coined it with Drew Pearson in the 1975 playoffs with the game-winning pass.
He's going long. Down the near sideline for Drew Pearson. Pearson makes the catch at the 5. Touchdown! Pearson goes in for the touchdown! and the Cowboys score!
And I can't even believe I'm saying this, but his football career was not even close to how successful he became. After he retired, he started the Staubach Company, which was a real estate empire, and he grew it into this huge, huge thing that he eventually sold for over $600 million. To put that in perspective, he made $500,000 in his 11 years playing for the Dallas Cowboys. He does some philanthropy stuff and, public speaking, but yeah, I think he's done. Nnamdi Asomugha. Nnamdi is a former cornerback. He was drafted in the first round, number 31 overall by the Oakland Raiders in 2003, and he very quickly established himself as a shutdown corner. In fact, he was probably one of the very few bright spots on a team that didn't have a winning record in the 8 years that he was there. He was so good, opposing teams only threw to him 31 times in 2007, and he only allowed 10 completions all year. Just 10. In 2011, he signed a 5-year, $60 million deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, which was one of the biggest contracts in NFL history at the time, primarily because he was a premier cornerback in the NFL. But unfortunately, it just didn't work out. He went from press man coverage to a zone-heavy scheme. He had just turned 30, and he suffered a decline in athleticism. And the Eagles as a whole were just really bad, which I personally loved. He finished with 3 Pro Bowls and 2 first-team All-Pro selections before retiring in 2013. But again, he's another one of those guys that's just gonna have a better career after football. He is now an established actor. He received a lot of praise and accolades for his leading role in Crown Heights back in 2017. He's produced several Broadway plays, one of which he earned a Tony Award from, and he's also married to actress Kerry Washington. Up next, we've got Jake the Snake, Jake Plummer.
Miami with a 4-man rush. Plummer dances to his left, goes up, being chased. Missed tackle, he lets it go, and it's caught.
Jake was drafted in the second round by the Arizona Cardinals, where he played for a total of 6 years before spending his last 4 years with the Denver Broncos. He threw for nearly 30,000 passing yards and made a Pro Bowl back in 2005, and he got the Cardinals to a very rare playoff win in 1998, and he led the Broncos to the AFC Championship back in 2005. He was never elite, but he was a star at one point, and my God, was he fun to watch, especially under Mike Shanahan in Denver, because he was a gunslinger. He just didn't care if there was a chance to get it intercepted. It was just electrifying to watch.
He was open on the little rollout. Plummer goes long instead, and a tough grab aid.
It was also maddening at the same time because it led to a lot of idiot plays to the point where you're like, dude, are you on mushrooms? And he was, actually, fun fact, because the moment he retired in 2007, he became a mushroom farmer. He started a mushroom farm business with former UFC fighter Rashad Evans. They called it Mykolov Farms. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. But they specialize in medicinal mushrooms and holistic health. He also became a professional handball player for a while. You know, the sport where you have the goggles and the shorts that are kind of too short and you're like in a basketball court looking thing. That thing. And hey, while we're on the subject of magical plants, how about Ricky Williams?
66 yards for best, and then the next play, Ricky's running free and wild, 46 yards and gone.
Ricky was a former Heisman Trophy winner with Texas, and he was drafted number 5 overall by the New Orleans Saints back in 1999. He played for 11 years with the Saints, with the Miami Dolphins, and the Baltimore Ravens, and he made a Pro Bowl in 2005. And at one point, he was considered inevitable. He was considered to be the next big thing, you can't miss kind of superstar. In fact, so much so that former Saints coach Mike Ditka traded all of his draft picks away to move up in the draft to pick Ricky Williams because he said he was a can't-miss generational back, and he just didn't prove it until Mike Ditka traded him away after 3 years. The Saints moved Ricky to Miami, and he rushed for 1,800 yards and 16 touchdowns in his first year in South Beach. And damn it, he was good. He was powerful, elusive, and he could take over games in the fourth quarter because he was just so powerful. But he was also Ricky, eccentric, rebellious, just did whatever he wanted at all times. He wore a wedding dress to his ESPN cover shoot just because. He suddenly retired just days before training camp at 27 because he wanted to travel and do yoga and smoke some of the silly plant. He had multiple year-long weed suspensions, which I think is a joke. You know, it's just the silly plant. Calm down. But it was the rules back then. But Ricky just did whatever he wanted to do, and teams couldn't depend on him. And after that insane year in 2003, he just never really got quite back to that level, and he retired. And then when he retired, he did exactly what you expected Ricky Williams to do. He became a licensed astrologer and holistic healer. He also founded a cannabis brand tailored for athletes, and he's now a spiritual guide. All really cool stuff, all very Ricky Williams. Brock Osweiler.
Sanders have caught passes tonight. Taking off Osweiler. Got the first down. Osweiler, touchdown.
Now, this is a guy who stands out from the majority of this list because he was never a Hall of Famer, he was never a Pro Bowler, he was never even a consistent starter. But at one point, he was considered to be a future franchise quarterback, and he was definitely paid as such. Back in 2012, he was picked in the second round by the Denver Broncos. He was the fan base's favorite to take over for future Hall of Famer Peyton Manning. The Broncos front office was thinking, hey, let's pull a Green Bay. Let's draft this dude and have him sit behind a legend for a few years, and then once Peyton retires, we got this 6'7", 240-pound space cadet looking dude to just stand back there and throw missiles for 15 years, and no one could ever bat his balls down. And in year 4, it seemed like that plan was working. Peyton went down, Brock led them to a 5-2 record, which was highlighted by a big overtime win over the Patriots, and they secured home field advantage in the playoffs. And actually, he was a huge reason why the Broncos were able to get to the Super Bowl that year and win the Super Bowl. Despite the fact that he played so well at the end of the year, the Broncos still benched him once Peyton came back, and Brock was still very salty about that. So that offseason, he shocked everyone when he signed with the Houston Texans. He signed a 4-year, $72 million deal and went down south to a team with a much less talented roster and coaching staff, and he fell flat on his face. After 15 miserable games as the starter for the Houston Texans, he was benched, and then he started 5 more games for Miami, and then he sucked there, and then he just fizzled out of the league. But it actually might have worked out for the best because he's now a high-end real estate investor, specifically focusing on high-end homes in Arizona. He goes after high-stakes real estate deals through his company Malachi Properties, and it seems to be going really well because back in 2022, his company purchased this 8,000 square foot Scottsdale mansion for $4.8 million in cash. So I don't think he's hurting. Sam Bradford.
Bradford off the play action, going up top for Pettis. He's got a touchdown.
Injuries just suck. They really, really do. We've missed out on so many legends just because of injuries, and I think Sam Bradford is a primary example of that. He was drafted number 1 overall in 2010 by the St. Louis Rams out of Oklahoma, and at that time, he was just a freak of nature coming out of college. He threw 50 touchdown passes, and he just had eye-watering college stats. Probably the most accurate college football player in college history. He had all the arm talent in the world. He could throw it a mile and at the same time have just laser-like precision like Aaron Rodgers, and he just seemed inevitable. In fact, the Rams were so confident in him that they gave him a 6-year, $78 million deal with $50 million guaranteed, which at the time was the biggest rookie deal in the history of the NFL, and it was the last one, too, because the NFL changed the rules on rookie contracts after that. And I think it was primarily because of Sam's career. His first season, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. He nearly got the Rams into the playoffs. And then the injuries happened. In 2011, he missed 6 games with a high ankle sprain. 2013, he tore his ACL halfway through the year. He missed the rest of the season. And then he tore his ACL again in the 2014 offseason. And then the Rams just gave up on him after that. He bounced around to a few other teams like the Eagles and the Vikings and the Cardinals. And he showed flashes of brilliance at times, but then just never really came through, and then he eventually got released and retired in 2018. But like a lot of former athletes, Sam turned to medical cannabis to treat a lot of the pain-related injuries that he was having, and he now owns Good Day Farms in Little Rock, Arkansas, which is my hometown, funny enough, which I'm sure is going to be quite fulfilling and mostly pain-free. And now that the NFL doesn't suspend players for weed anymore, I think this is going to be a massive industry for former NFL players because a lot of them are enduring a lot of horrific pain from these injuries, and it just makes their life hell. I think he's got a really bright future in this because I think he's a really smart dude. So hopefully this video answered your questions about where some of these guys are now. And if you're like most NFL fans, you've probably thought this at one point. Did Ray Lewis actually murder somebody? I spent weeks reviewing the case, so click the box in the top left-hand corner to give it a watch, and I'll see you over there. All right, toodles.